Okay, here we go. Launching into, in a few minutes, Christmas tunes because you didn't express any objection. That's where I'm going because that's kind of what I'm playing myself a lot. Um, Last week, though, we discussed the chromatic scale. I hope you tabbed that out. I don't remember what key we played it in, but I think we played perhaps here in fifth position. Okay, so what I want to do is look at, once again, just call it the exercise of the week portion of the lesson. We're going to look at playing the chromatic scale starting on the third fret of the A string, if you want to tab that out, starting on the third fret. And it's going to just simply go 3, 4, 5, 6 on the A string. So we're starting on C. Once again, the more you kind of take in these little details as we discuss these things, the better you become, your knowledge of the guitar neck and music in general becomes better, which ultimately leads to becoming a better player. So anyway, starting here on C, 3, 4, 5, 6, then there's different ways you can do this. So we have C, C sharp, D, D sharp. The next note is E. So obviously, because we're playing a chromatic scale, we could just go right there because chromatic means we're going to go to the next half step. Like that. I prefer, and it doesn't matter, I prefer to come back to the E here on the second fret of the D string. Don't even ask me why, it's just the way I've always done it. Like that, as opposed to that. So anyway, we have the 3, 4, 5, 6, then going to the D string, 2, 3, 4, 5, 2, 3, 4, 5, if you're writing that down. And then I slide up to the G sharp. So now I have the next note obviously could just be that because once again we're going chromatically in half steps and the distance between every fret on the guitar is a half step. Then what I do is I come back to the second fret again and go 2, 3, 4, 5 and that completes it. We're back to C. So we have, starting on the A string, 3, 4, 5, 6, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay? Great to practice up and down. I don't know if I mentioned it yesterday. One of the things you can focus on when doing that exercise is your pinky. Trying to keep the pinky close to the pinky tends to have a mind of its own and always just kind of fly out. So even as you're starting, thinking about keeping that pinky close to the guitar neck as you play those first 4 notes. Even more tricky as you're descending, trying to keep it from flying out. It takes some real thought, as you can see, even watching me, it tends to want to jump. So it takes some real concentration to try to get the pinky to behave. So anyway, that would be the chromatic scale starting on the A string. Write it down, practice it ascending and descending, just add it to your warm-ups. You can do almost all the warm-ups. If you were to even just do them 3 or 4 times each when you pick up the guitar, you can probably do all the warm-ups that we've talked about in 1 to 2 minutes is all the time that it would take. But the benefits would be great in the long run. Okay, so now looking at the starting to put together this Christmas, I picked Angels We Have Heard on High, very familiar Christmas tune. And on page 1, what I have is I have the I guess what you might call the chorus, the Gloria part. And if you're not familiar with the tune, just YouTube it or something and listen to a version just to reacquaint yourself. But I'm sure once I start playing it, you'll recognize what's going on. So what I have here, I designed this kind of so that it would build, from the ground up, so to speak, starting with playing single notes and double stops. Double stops meaning 2 strings at the same time, sometimes adjacent strings, sometimes strings that are not adjacent, like from the E string to the G string. And just to get some practice playing that sort of thing. So if you look at page 1, you'll see that there's some notes in parentheses. Those notes are simply passing tones that aren't actually part of the melody. So if, let's say we're going to build our own arrangement and we're going to maybe use this as the intro. Okay, something, just a little quiet, thin kind of start to the song. So what we could do is I'm going to first play it without the notes in parentheses. So we'd have 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1. So there's those double stops on strings that aren't adjacent. So obviously I'm kicking out the B string. I do it with kind of this part of the middle finger there. Notice the fingering there. Okay, I'm going to go back to the beginning. And then you see it repeats, and we have a second ending. So what you could do, for example, in putting this arrangement together, is then maybe now, after the repeat, you can add the notes that are in the parentheses, and you'll hear how that sounds here. Second ending. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to play from the beginning. I'm going to play it without the notes in parentheses, go do the repeat, and then play it with the notes in parentheses. So what I'm doing is I'm building, right? Because I'm starting to add some harmonies and starting to build the arrangement, which is typically what you do when you're putting together an arrangement. Is you try to don't give the audience everything right away. Kind of build some interest, keep it quiet, and then gradually build up the arrangement so that it becomes more dynamic and interesting as you go along. So I will play it that way. Once again, without the notes in parentheses, do the repeat, and then use the notes in parentheses and go to the second ending. 3, 4. Notice on that second ending as I'm coming down, 7, 7, 5, 5. When I go to that third fret, I'm holding the ring finger down and then resolving with the 3, 4. Okay, I'll do that one more time. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, I want to talk now a little bit about the fingering. You don't have to use the fingering that I'm using. There are a couple approaches that you can take, but what you do want to do almost whenever you're learning anything, any new arrangement, is to decide the fingering that you are going to use and stick with it, because it really makes a difference in the muscle memory part of playing, so that you can concentrate more on the musicality and not so much on the physical and technical. So when I play it the first time, I'm without the passing tones. I'm playing with the first and third finger, then going to, and then so the main thing I want to point out, though, is that when I start without the passing tones, I'm using this fingering. When I start to incorporate the passing tones, you can keep that fingering and then maybe use the middle finger to play the passing tone. Same here. Or when you play it the second time through, you can use the middle finger and the pinky, and then use the first finger for the passing tone, like this. Middle finger and pinky again. After that, it's pretty well going to be the same. Your main choice is at just the first two measures, because the main thing is you want to make sure that the high note continues to ring. So like this, like that, or using this fingering. A lot of people wouldn't choose that simply because it involves the pinky, and the pinky tends to be, as we were discussing in the chromatic scale, tends to be a little bit more difficult to control. So that would be the reason some people wouldn't choose it. I just find that overall, for those two measures, using that particular fingering has its advantages. So once again, to review that, when I play it the first time through without the passing tones, I find the first and third finger to be useful. When I go through it the second time and I'm adding the passing tones, I switch to this. Not necessary. You can do it with this and play the passing tone like I said. The main thing, as I said, is just to decide on a fingering and stick to it. So let's see, can I say any more about that? I don't think so. So going on to page 2, we have the basic melody, and I put the melody in standard notation and tab just to, once again, put a little bit more depth to the lesson so that you can see it actually notated, and once again, hopefully take that in to a degree so that you can become familiar with reading in standard notation also. Even a little bit each time, you know, you kind of build on it and get better at it. So I'm just going to go through. So what happens in this song is line 1 is the first part of the verse, and line 2 is the second part of the verse. They're both exactly the same. Line 1 and line 2 are both exactly the same as far as the actual melody. What I did in the second line is I harmonized the melody. So let me show you what I mean. So playing it, the first line, okay, then the melody continues. But what I've done is now I'm using double stops, I'm applying a simple harmony. At the end, I end on that unison, 2 G's. Okay? So from the beginning, we have okay, so that's the first half of the song. The second half of the song is what we started with. Then it would go into the... You may find that the first part that we discussed, the chorus, the Gloria part, may be more than enough to work on. And if that's the case, I would suggest making sure that you have that first sheet under your command before you go to the second sheet. The second sheet is actually probably easier, okay? And the same thing we would want to apply when you're looking at the second line down, where we have the harmonies. There's just numerous ways you could finger that. So decide what seems to work for you and use that all the time. In some classical guitar books, you know, they even go so far as to write little numbers next to the notes to remind them what fingering to use. And that also can be a kind of a fun intellectual exercise, is to look at it and say to yourself, for example, I'm talking about the harmonized section now. Do I want to go to that on that 3/4? Or do I want to maybe use this? Once again, when it comes to the fingering, there really isn't a right or a wrong. It's finding what you think flows smoothly. Once again, the important thing being to do it the same way every time. Okay? So we'll leave that at that. That's kind of an introduction to the song. It's going to build into a fuller arrangement like they always do. But this is just to kind of get you going, playing the song. So I hope you enjoy that. I hope the other things we're working on are coming along, and that otherwise all is well. And any questions, you know what to do. And we'll leave it at that. Bye-bye.